Hey, good morning, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Unlock Show. I'm your host, Tracy Wilson. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I thought long and hard about whether or not I should do an episode based on this particular topic that I'm going to speak about. It's going to be a little bit raw and real. I mentioned on a podcast or a show a couple of days ago that I had something to share. I was just going to put it on my personal page, but I decided I'd actually do a show about it. And the reason I thought I would do this is because it is way more common than we think. I've titled today's show, the journey of recovery as an entrepreneur. And the reason that I wanted to go down this path is because I've seen over the last probably good 6 months, I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs posting about this particular topic, not this specifically, but certainly talking about their highs and their lows and the way that they are feeling in certain aspects of their life. And so I thought I would share my own personal story. I want to say now, as you're listening, I want to just put a couple of things out there. Some of the stuff that I talk about today, I'm not giving advice as such. I'm just simply sharing my experience, my story, and the journey that I've been on over the last few months. And secondly, hopefully, if you've got little ones listening, I'm going to try and keep any explicits or bleeps out of today's conversation, but I can't guarantee that one or two might just slip out. So I'm just going to let you know that just right up front, just that, I don't accidentally say something that I shouldn't have. And we've got little ears that are listening because I realize this is a family show. We like to have kids listening in too. And although I've entitled today's conversation or specifically around entrepreneurship, you're probably going to find that there is some stuff in here that will apply even if you are not an entrepreneur. So let me start with this. I want you to think about, kind of the creation of the perfect storm. And, what do I mean by that? Well, usually the perfect storm gets created by a number of different factors that kind of all come together. They all culminate at the same time and they kind of hit like the big bang, right? And these things all come together and they create the perfect storm. Well, I'm going to say that I've certainly felt like that I've been in the middle of the perfect storm since the beginning of 2022. And it's interesting because if I go back, sort of redial, a good 16 months ago, kind of this process started. And some of you guys may have been listening to the show for some time. You would have heard that I've spoken about my mum a number of times. And you'd know that, my mum passed away back in February, but her and my dad moved in with me a good 16 months ago. And over that time, we were going through a process of, I suppose, adjustment to the illness that she was facing at that time and just trying to get on with life as best we could. And it's really interesting because since the beginning of the year, or especially in the last 2 months, I've had a lot of reflection time, right? And you'll understand why I've had a lot of that reflection time as I continue to tell this story. But, 16 months of looking after mum, looking after dad and that sort of stuff. And that's not just me. I'm lucky enough to have, a family, my sister Nicola, a huge amount of support, and my brother-in-law, etc. So it's not just me on my own. I've certainly had a lot of family support to help us through that particular situation. But in saying that, the reason I'm mentioning this is because it works its way into this perfect storm. So rolling around end of last year, I thought, gosh, I'm going to take a little bit of time out. I'm going to spend some time with my family, just going to chill out for a bit because I really feel like my body needs a bit of rest time, and I just want to go and do some fun stuff with family and create some really cool memories. So lucky for me, again, I'm going to mention a number of people throughout today's show because I think it's really important that I do so, because there's been a number of people over the past several months that have been extremely supportive, and I certainly couldn't have got through a lot of the stuff without them. So I want to mention Robin Helm and Vicky Helm for their ongoing support couldn't have the best, couldn't have any better business partners than those two, because during this time, super, super supportive and just jumped in and did whatever they needed to do to make sure that Tracy could actually go away and do some of the stuff. So this is Christmas, going through Christmas was okay. We're sort of thinking, gosh, this could be the last time we have Christmas with mum. So, let's all get together and do all the fun stuff. Which we did, and we had a great time with both mum and dad. And then February hits. Whoa, here comes the storm that is about to just hit and rain on Tracy's parade. Let's just say that. So beginning of February rolls around, and I've had this time of rest and relaxation and just trying to spend some good time with family. February rolls around, beginning of February, start to feel a little bit unwell. Start to feel, gosh, I'm not feeling the best, feeling like I've been hit by a bloody bus is probably the way to put it. And 2 days into feeling not so great, my mum also starts to feel unwell. So a little bit before me, she started to feel unwell. I then start feeling unwell. 2 days into this illness, and my mum passes away. And so you kind of got this huge storm that has come together in illness, which I'm going to say was COVID at that time. My mum also had COVID, and mum unfortunately didn't die of COVID, but obviously was a factor in that mix, and at the time died with COVID. So let's just put that out there. I'll just might as well tell the story as it is. And unfortunately, mum lost her life through another illness that she actually had. She was diagnosed with cancer a year or so prior to that. So anyway, the pair of us have got COVID, and during this time, obviously mum also passes away, and so you've got this huge amount of stress on one's body, which is happening at this time. And I was feeling pretty down and out, like been hit by a bus. I ain't going to get emotional with this because this is just going to be a story that I'm going to tell, right? So I'm not going there. So this is all happening. But why I wanted to tell this story is because after that, after we've gone through all of the, as you do, when you've got a death in the family, and our family has, some traditions that we go through. And again, thanks to my family and the support that I have, they made that such a beautiful time. Anyway, so we go through that. But afterwards, right? And at the time, I was thinking to myself, gosh, is this actually, COVID, or is it grief with mum, or is it the two blooming things combined? And it was the two blooming things combined, right? So for the couple of months thereafter, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, because this is what I'm seeing a lot of entrepreneurs or people talking about, is the post-COVID, almost like depression, brain fog, your mood changes, your skin changes, your hair changes, immense amount of lethargy, and all these things going on. And often, this is again just my personal experience, I would think to myself, what the hell is going on with me? Usually someone who's bubbly, bright, a go-getter, got loads of energy, likes to sit in this chair and do copious amounts of work. I just had nothing. And I'm hearing a lot of entrepreneurs talk about this. And I'm saying entrepreneurs because that's kind of the circle that I'm in. So I hear a lot of people talking about this. And they're saying that, it's one of those times where they didn't know what the heck was going on with them. They don't know what to do. And I can honestly say that I felt that way too. And I want to bring this up now because if you are someone who is going through this or has been through this, I want you to know that you're not alone. Because personally for me, it was actually some level of comfort knowing I wasn't alone. I wasn't going mad. I wasn't losing my mind. I wasn't, falling into a massive deep depression that I couldn't get out of. It was just a period of time that required some, let's say, time of healing, some time of quiet and peace to enable your body to repair itself. And I want you guys to know that that's actually quite normal. And if you think about, particularly with, in my situation where I had those few things come together to create that perfect storm, it's a lot of stress on one's body. And you don't really realize that at the time. You feel pretty darn awful, but you're not thinking about it in in that way. And it's not until you get an opportunity to reflect on it that you realize that, yeah, gosh, your body has gone through a lot of, emotional stress, the stress of an illness, and a whole lot of other stresses that we tend to place on ourselves in everyday life. So I want you to know that, you're not alone, and there are lots of places that you can reach out to. So to help me get through this, there's a couple of things that I did. One was thankfully for me, like I mentioned, I had Robin and I had Vicky and my family that were there to help and support. Number one is make sure that you've got plenty of support around you. And if you don't, there are places out there that you can just find support groups online. We're lucky enough to be living in an era where you can jump online where anybody on almost any topic you want. So go and find places that are able to help you. And if it's COVID that you're trying to recover from, my very good friend Maya McNulty, she was actually one of the very first. So I'm going to say she got COVID in the early days, and she's been an amazing survivor and has gone on to do some really wonderful things to help people with long COVID. She has a Facebook group called COVID Wellness. So I would recommend that you go in and check that out and just get some support from there. But like I said, there's a whole bunch of other places that you can go to get some support. The other thing that I would recommend you do is you want to listen to your body. You've got to take some time out, and you just have to rest and just be okay with that. I can tell you there were days where I got up out of bed and I literally walked 10 steps from the bedroom to the couch, the sofa, and I sat on it, and then I lay on it, and I did not move. And that may have been the case for a number of days on end. And that is totally unlike me. I do not normally do that. And I can tell you that at the time I was wondering, what the hell is going on? Why am I doing this? What's wrong with me? And being an entrepreneur, being someone that works at home, you're on your own. So what have you got? You've only got yourself and your own little mind that just keeps ticking around. So the head trash that can be exacerbated by the journey of recovery that you may be going through can get a little bit loud. So just make sure that you have plenty of support, and that where you can, even if you have to download some apps on your phone that might be daily affirmations or meditations, or just fill your head with really, really good stuff. And if you have to watch TV, go find some really good comedy so that at least you're laughing and you're doing some things that bring some, good vibes and, get the endorphins flowing in your body. So just, do some of these things that are really going to help you. The other things I would say is be kind to yourself. Sometimes, and put my hand up here, sometimes we can be a little unkind to ourselves with those thoughts, and we start saying things like, what the heck is wrong with you? Why can't you do that? Why are you feeling bad? All of these things, you start questioning your abilities and why you're not able to do things. So again, be really kind to yourself and allow yourself to have that rest and relaxation. I also mentioned just make sure that you're not alone. There are people out there that will help you, and then also just take the time to go and do the things that you enjoy. Like, you'll notice if you go back and you have a look at my shows, which I do every week, twice a week. There was a period of time where I was only doing them once a week, and that was just to give myself a bit of a rest over that Christmas break and with mum and what have you. But in the main, I was still here doing the show every single week. And I'm going to say that actually has been a huge, huge part of my recovery. So I want to thank you guys for that, because you give me the opportunity to be able to jump on here. I'm going to say it's almost a little bit like therapy, right? I'm sitting in this house all on my own, but yet I get to jump on here and spill the beans and talk about all sorts of stuff. But what it has done is that it gave me something to focus on. It gave me something that I would do on the regular. It gave some rhythm and some routine to my week, so I could show up here, whether it was that I was just speaking out on a solo show like so, or I actually had a guest on the show. It actually gave me something that I had to do that I actually really enjoyed. And it brought some level of normality back to my life and what I was doing. So I would say find something like that. I mean, I'm a big advocate for this. I mean, those of you who are entrepreneurs, if you're looking for some way in more ways than one, I'm going to say that, most people start doing shows like this because they want to start creating content and they want to get their message out there. But there are so many more benefits in doing this, one of which I just mentioned before. It's kind of like therapy that you don't have to pay for, because you get an opportunity to get it out of your system, and you're actually able to talk about it to those people who might be interested in listening. So, I just wanted to mention those things because there's certain things that I have found that have happened over the past several months that have really helped in this journey of recovery. Now, what I also want to say is that it's been a funny old journey, right? So, like I mentioned, the perfect storm. And then you think you're just getting over things, like things are just going really, really well. And then, boom. I want to tell you another little story. Back when I was a child, back when I was, little girl, I longed to have long, beautiful, thick hair, just like all my cousins. My cousin Renee, Pania, Ariana, all of my amazing cousins that, I've got heaps of them, and they all had this long, beautiful hair. Unfortunately, my sister and I were not blessed with long, beautiful hair. In fact, we had like wispy, thin, fine hair that you couldn't really do much with, except for have the latest trendy hairstyles. And we thank our mum for this, and we often have a bit of a giggle about it because we were the kids on the block that got to have the rat's tails. If you don't know what a rat's tail is, go back to, I don't know, would be the late 70s, early 80s, and have a look up what a rat's tail is. Well, anyway, we rocked one of those, and we had the spiky hair and all sorts of other interesting hairstyles that were the in thing back in the day. And that was primarily because we didn't have the little girl long, thick hair to be able to do braids in or put in pigtails or ponytails. We just didn't have that. Fast forward 40 odd years later, and in the last kind of 12 months, the number of compliments that I've had about my hair, this is the first time my hair has ever grown as long as it has ever in my life. And so I was kind of getting to the point where I actually quite like my hair. I'm actually quite enjoying it being this length. I'm enjoying going and getting it colored and being able to put it in some decent hairstyles. And it was thick, like thick, growing this thick mane of hair, which was absolutely beautiful. All right, so fast forward from COVID, 2 months. Still got this thick, beautiful hair up until a week and a half ago. And that's where this little twist in the story happens. Week and a half ago, I jump into the shower, washing hair as per normal. Start washing my hair. And as you do, you kind of look down and I'm like, oh my God, that is weird. What's going on? Clumps of hair. And I mean, not just a little bit of hair. Yeah, we all lose our hair, a little bit each and every day. And I think that the scientists will tell you you lose somewhere between 100 and 150 strands of hair a day. No, not now. Chunks of hair are coming out. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? Why is my hair? That's weird. Am I just imagining it? Carry on. The next day, same thing. Hair starts falling out. My brush starts having like copious amounts of hair in it, which is totally unusual. So Tracy starts to do a little bit of a panic. What is going on? Why is my hair falling out? Which sends me down the rabbit hole of why is my hair falling out? What is going on? Only to find that there is a phenomenon, and I'm probably going to butcher the how I pronounce this, but there is a phenomenon that a lot of people experience post-COVID, and it usually happens 2 to 3 months out. And it is called, let me just pronounce this, hopefully I pronounce this correctly, telogen effluvium. It's a thing, TE. And it hits you just like that. One day your hair is long and beautiful and growing like a weed. The next day your hair is starting to fall out like you are pulling out weeds, just like that, right? So all of a sudden, that beautiful hair that I longed for as a child is now taking me back to my childhood of silly, wispy, ridiculous kind of hair. So I want you to also know that you may be experiencing this. Not everybody does. and I hope that you don't. But some people do, and in my travels through cyberspace, I've found a number of celebrities who have been experiencing this same problem. Alyssa Milano being one of them. So it is actually a phenomenon. It's called telogen effluvium. And if you didn't already know, let me give you a little bit of information about this telogen effluvium. But about 90% of the hairs on our scalp are actually in a growth phase. And and there's an interesting, I suppose, what would you call it? Like I've made this relative to what's going on in my life right now. So I'll get to that in a second. But 90% of your hairs on your scalp are actually in growth phase always, and that's called anagen. And about 10% of your hairs move into the resting phase, and that's called telogen, right? So our hair falls out, new hair, your hair follicles are still there, and your hair regrows. And that anagen of growth usually lasts for about 3 years, and then your hair goes into telogen, where you start losing and shedding hair. Now, what has actually happened after having this immense amount of stress? COVID is not the only thing that causes this. It can actually happen with huge amounts of stress that you might have in your life. So when your body's gone through a huge amount of stress, it can stick around for some time, and of course, all sorts of weird and wonderful things can start happening. Skin starts getting a little bit dry, and your hair starts falling out, bless it. So 90% of your hair, like I mentioned, is on the scalp is in growth phase, and then 10% of it under normal circumstances is in shedding phase. But what actually happens when you go through an immense amount of stress, when you are experiencing telogen effluvium, is that your hair cycle shifts. Your hair cycle shifts, and it means that more of your hair goes into the shedding phase. So, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, beautiful locks. Today, I have this silly kind of hair that is now dry and is brittle. And if I pulled it like so, which I'm not going to do, it will probably fall out. So, anyway, that's another fantastic highlight. And one of the wonderful things that comes with not being so well. But the moral of the story is that if you think about hair, right, there is a growth phase in our life, and there is a shedding phase in our life, and everybody goes through these cycles. So it doesn't matter what it is that you are doing, you are going to be in one of those phases, and you could be in multiple phases at any given time in different areas of your life. But what I keep reminding myself of, and you can take this if you so wish, but it certainly has helped me, is to remember that everything has always been okay. I say this to myself often when things are in a little bit of turmoil, things are not going so well. Everything has always been okay. Everything is actually okay now, right? My hair's falling out and it's going to grow back. And the good news is that this morning I looked in the mirror and I'm like looking here and I can see these little fuzzy bits, meaning that my hair is starting to grow back. So I'm not going to stress too much more about it, because what is that going to do? It's only going to make it worse. It's going to go, it is what it is. I'm going to get back some really beautiful, thick, long hair that is going to be really, really nice. Just allow the process to take place. And there is also a time for shedding. So there's a time for shedding and there's a time for growth. So the story that I tell myself, or the saying that I tell myself often, is everything has always been okay. Always has been. Everything is okay today, and it is. So therefore, everything will always be okay. So if you use that as I do in my life, it brings me comfort to know that everything is always going to be okay. Doesn't matter what goes on, we'll come out the other end of it and it will be okay. So I hope that today's story is giving you a little bit of insight into, I suppose, my life, what's been going on. I'm not immune to not having, negative thoughts. I try really hard to do what I can, and when I notice it, and I noticed it during that period of time that there was a lot of head trash going on, and I have the skills, I know all the knowledge to be able to, to get rid of that, and sometimes it was a little bit difficult. So that is the honest truth. But what I can say is that, a few weeks later, really understanding the tools that I had at my hands utilizing those tools. Hopefully it's allowed for the recovery, particularly of the head trash that was going on, to improve itself quickly over time. And now, a couple of months later, hair's falling out. It is what it is. Nothing you can do about it. No point stressing about it. It's only going to make it worse. I will just have comfort in knowing that it will grow back, and it will grow back beautifully. So I want you to take the moral of these stories that I've told you today, to know that no matter what's going on in your life, that you can recover, that things will be okay. They always have been, they always will be, and there are people out there to be able to help you. And if you so feel inclined to want to speak out and talk about your journey, like I do, then you might wish to start your own podcast or your own show. If you want a little bit of a helping hand in doing that, go and connect with me at tracymwilson.com, and I would love to actually help you do that, because I believe that we need more voices out there speaking the truth and sharing their stories so that other people can have hope and also be able to recover themselves. So that being said, you guys hopefully you listen to the Unlock Show on the regular, which is a live show, happens every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Brisbane time and every Friday 10 a.m. Brisbane time. Wednesdays I have awesome guests with me, and on Fridays I go live, tell you stories like this, or I will share with you tools, resources, and how-tos that I have found to be very, very useful in my journey as an entrepreneur, or just in my life and also with my family. So that being said, now is a time I would absolutely love for you guys to go, and if you're watching the show, go and give it a bit of a review. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give me a review on there. They are really, really helpful. I would love to be able to get more of the show out to more people. And secondly, if you prefer to listen on a podcast, listen rather than actually watch the show, then go over to Apple or Stitcher or iHeartRadio or whatever your favorite podcasting platform is, and download the show. Go and find it, Unlocked with Tracy Wilson, become a subscriber and download. Or if you prefer to watch, you can watch me on Facebook, and also head on over to YouTube, two places on YouTube, Tracy M. Wilson, and or Metadime Digital is where you can find me on YouTube, and you can watch all the episodes back to back, binge watch them if you want to. But like always, I say to you guys, go and live your life unlocked, because there is just no other way. I hope you're all well. You're all doing amazing with your businesses and whatever it is that you are planning to do in your life. Go and create some big goals, dream big, and just get it done. All right, guys, have a fantastic weekend. I am about to, and I'll see you guys back here for another episode of the Unlock Show next Wednesday at 10 a.m. Have a fantastic weekend, guys. Bye for now.